Okay, example C, we want to write down the equation of the line which is perpendicular to the line 2y plus 5x equals 1, and it passes through the point 0, minus 8. So 2y plus 5x equals 1 is the known line, and the unknown line that we're trying to get the equation for goes through the point 0, minus 8. So let's put the information down again in the question. So we have our known line. We then have our unknown line. So the equation of the known line is 2y plus 5x equals 1. And we know the point that the unknown line goes through, it's 0, minus 8. So again, to get the equation of any straight line, you need to know its y-intercept and you need to know its gradient. Now the point that the unknown line goes through is actually on the y-axis, because if you were to plot this point, you would move along the x-axis to 0 and then you would move down the y-axis to minus 8. So this point is on the y-axis and the line goes through this point, so the line cuts the y-axis at this point, and it's going to cut the y-axis at minus 8. So that is the y-intercept plus c. So the next thing we have to do is get the gradient for the unknown line, and the only way we can do that is by first identifying what the gradient is on the known line. Now the problem is y is not by itself in the equation for the known line. So we have to rearrange the equation to get y by itself and make sure that y is positive. So first of all, y is already positive, 2y is positive, so we're going to keep that term where it is. We're going to move the plus 5x to the other side, so we're going to get 1, and then change the sign of plus 5x, you get minus 5x. We're now going to divide both sides by the coefficient of y, which is 2. Just before you divide by 2, just check to see if there's any letters that don't have a visible coefficient. X here does have a visible coefficient, so that's fine. If a letter didn't have a visible coefficient, you would insert a 1 before the letter, before you divide. So now we're going to divide right the way through by 2. So we divide 2y by 2. And that's equal to 1 divided by 2, and then minus 5x divided by 2. Let's do a bit of cancelling. So the 2's cancel over here, so we're left with y. See the way y is now by itself, it's now positive and has no visible coefficient, and that's equal to 1/2. What I'm going to do is unline up the numerator and denominator of this fraction with x in it. So I'm just going to move x so it's halfway between the minus 5 and the 2. So we're going to have minus 5 over 2, and then that's being multiplied by x. The reason I'm unlining the numerator and denominator is so we can clearly see what the coefficient of x is. So now y is by itself and it's positive and it has no coefficient. So what we do is identify what the gradient is for this known line. So it's the coefficient of x, which is going to be minus 5 over 2. So in order to get the gradient for the unknown line, because these lines are perpendicular, first thing we're going to do is we're going to flip the numerator and denominator of the gradient for the known line. So if I flip it, I'm going to have minus 5 over 2. And then change its sign. So it's now going to be a plus instead of a minus. So plus 5 over 2, or 5 over 2, is going to be the gradient for the unknown line. So now we know the y-intercept and we know the gradient, we can now write down the equation. So general equation of any straight line is y equals mx plus c. And then what we're going to do is we're going to replace the gradient m and the y-intercept plus c with their values. So our final answer, we have y equals 5 over 2x, or plus 5 over 2, and then x, and then replace plus c with minus 8. And that is the equation for the unknown line in part C.